appreciate everybody being here this afternoon. Start by just saying congratulations to women's basketball. A great game last night. Love the way they competed. Congratulations to the Lady Vols and Coach Harper. Been a lot of fun. Coach Barnes and his basketball season, a lot of fun and great environments over in our arena. Was a huge part of our recruiting there in January and March too. So congratulations to them on a great year too and conference tournament championships. Excited today, get an opportunity to get on the field and be with our guys. Love what they did in the first quarter of our off season here and strength and conditioning. A ton of growth for them and continued functional development as football players. Thought you could see some of those things just in the way they took the grass today and played and competed. Today was a great start, great energy, which it should be on day one. Proud of the growth that we've had and some of the things that we saw out there today. Can't wait to watch the video and get a chance to meet with our guys on the back end of it. So, open it up for questions.
We'll start with Austin. You go back to last spring, and you're kind of finding out who your leaders are. You already know most of those this year with Hendon and some of the key guys back. How much does that kind of put you ahead? And then second thing, Kelsey Pope, first day out there on practice field with him in a different role for him. What you see?
Yeah, the leadership side of it, not just the leadership, but just the connection and relationships that we have, staff and players together and alike. So much known versus a year ago with all the unknowns of first day, how everything was going to be handled, how it was going to operate, how coaches were going to handle themselves, communicate. Just a year further in that growth and development and trust and communication, respect between players and coaches. And you could see that today. A ton of great teaching out on the practice field today, and that was from coaches to players, but you saw a lot more from player to player too. And in the first quarter of our off season, and it'll be an emphasis as we continue to go, through this lead up to kickoff here this season. And it's always a part of our program is developing leaders, giving them opportunities to grow in those roles. And grow your young players too from the ground up as they first hit the campus, and I love some of the ownership that our players are taking. It's got to start and be demanded from inside of the locker room, and for Hendon Hooker, Tank, Trey Flowers, there's a bunch of them that have done a really good job of growing in those roles. Lost some strong leadership a year ago. I feel like we got some guys that will become really strong in the locker room this year.
Wes, then Vince.
Just behind Cedric there at wide receiver, you got a lot of talent, a lot of young guys.
Mm-hmm.
Other than maybe Ramel, not a lot of guys who played a good bit during their career. What are your thoughts on that position right now? How much growth needs to happen? How much potential?
Yeah, a little bit like last spring, in that we had some young guys that had to grow and become really strong players. Cedric, obviously, his experience, his ownership inside the wide receiver room, critical and big for us as a position, as a unit on offense, and as a program. Expect him to take another big jump in his playing development as well. Outside of him, there's a bunch of guys that need to grow, and I thought they had really strong off seasons in the first phase of what we do. They put themselves in a great position. I thought there were a lot of positives today in their ability to operate within our tempo, get lined up, for them, understanding scheme versus coverage. There were a lot of really positives today. They're going to need continued growth and development. These next 14 days after today are going to be big for their development.
Josh, over here. Another year, second year for you in the program. Any adjustments for you in terms of operating practice, or how it lays out, how you spend your time, anything like that you wanted to make adjustment and improve on?
Very subtle adjustments in our practice routine. I think you change and evolve, just what your needs are as a program, some things that I think you want to make sure that you grow off of your self-scout, reflecting back on the year, to make sure that you're hitting all the points of emphasis during the course of your 15 days of practice. So we'll make sure that we do that and systematically accomplish that by the end of spring. as a complete overhaul, very little change as far as how I'm functioning day to day. Today, spent a little bit more time with the wideouts in some of our individual periods, but other than that, not a whole lot of change.
Ben on the left, then Adam on the right.
Josh, there was kind of quite a bit of craziness getting into spring football last year. Just how different is it this year getting into spring football, and how much easier is it to simply focus on football these next 2 months or so?
Yeah, for us, almost all of our staff back, old and young staff, familiarity, you're able to reflect, grow on those things, a lot of understanding of who we are, how we're going to function, how we want to operate. Kids are able to focus on, the details of what we're asking them to do. Coaching staff's in sync and on the same page and should help us propel us for a great amount of growth here. A difference in year 1 and year 2 is just light years of difference. There's so much familiarity and understanding in what we're doing, coaches and players alike.
Josh, you've talked a lot about enjoying the teaching part of coaching. You've got guys that you're building on, experienced players, and you've got the new players, that initial teaching. Which of those do you like more and why?
Man, the teaching, it doesn't matter whether it's an older veteran guy or a young guy. It's the constant evolution, the fight and the strain mentally and physically to gain the inches that you need to, and the conscientious effort to put in the work to do that, and being diligent and paying attention to the details. So it doesn't matter, young, old, how long they've been here. I enjoy that, and I think our staff does too.
Brent in the front, and then Eric in the back.
How challenged are you in the secondary, particularly at corner, with those injuries, and how do you manage that in terms of developing your receivers and also, with those guys at that position with the lack of numbers there?
Yeah, if you want to come out and take some reps, I'm no.
No, I didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, seriously, how do you manage with the lack of numbers that you have?
Yeah, you monitor, the player loads on those guys every single day, and track what they're doing. You make sure that if guys are, having to double back on reps, that you're giving them the proper amount of time to rest in between so they can go out and play and compete. At this point, we're not worried about cutting any of the reps that we normally would have. Feel like at this point we're in a position to continue to get the reps that we wanted.
As a follow-up, moving, if you're playing a guy who's maybe a safety or a nickel guy at corner, how much is that a help to them, and how much is that a hindrance to their development if they're, quote, practicing out of position?
Yeah, I think at this point in where we're at in our off season, right? I think there's a ton of advantages to those guys moving around and naturally finding a home. That's something that we did a year ago when we had more guys at the position. I think it paid dividends for us and finding guys' natural home as injuries happen, being able to get the best 5 guys out on the football field and put them in a position of success, which is helping us defensively. The more you know, the more you understand, the more you're able to play full speed and have a global view of what's happening, and I think that helps you at whatever position you're playing as well. So I think those reps at this point and who we are and what we're doing are only going to serve us as we go down the road.
Is the spring session a time where you can really experiment with some cross training, maybe flipping the tackles from one side to the other, maybe outside linebacker getting some work on the inside? Is there any stuff like that going on here in this session?
Yeah, I think guys have an opportunity to move to different positions. Some of that's just trying to create competition. Some of it's based on open opportunity. Some of it's, giving us the flexibility as we continue to go to play guys in different positions. As you try to create competition, find out who your best guys, whatever that number is at each position that you have an opportunity to play. And I think just like the previous question in the secondary, that only makes you better as you go further and get closer to the season.
Coach, 2 questions. First, start with this one. What excites you most going into the spring and then, looking into the fall?
Yeah, fall's a long ways away. As a coach, you're just focused on today. I think the thing that I'm most excited about is, the spirit of competition, the accountability that we have inside of our team room, starting to develop some real ownership from our players from within. They have a clear understanding of who and what we are. They've started to meet those standards at a really high level. Love the intensity and focus that they come into the building with every single day. They've become really consistent competitors, and it's a lot of fun being around this group.
And the other one, what do you hope to accomplish by the time the spring wraps up?
I don't know if we got enough time, right? I mean, there's a laundry list of things: offense, defense, special teams. At the end of the day, I want our players to understand how we have to compete from snap to whistle for 60 minutes, and then meet that standard at the end of the day. For us, that's the number one objective.
Josh, you can go back to last season with Hendon and with Cedric. You've talked about how much better they can get. Obviously, they had a lot of success last season. What kind of edge or what kind of difference maybe have you seen with those guys this offseason as they sort of build off that and try to maximize what they had?
Yeah, I think for both of them, it's different this year than it was a year ago in that they're comfortable and confident in who they are as a player, and have great understanding of ways that they need to improve and want to improve. They have a great voice inside of the team room, inside of their position units. I think they understand that now, and so the leadership and ownership from within is completely different too. For them to continue to improve, and as you improve, that doesn't mean statistically your numbers are going to be dramatically different either, right? It's about becoming and maximizing who you are and your potential as a football player. Both of those guys have done a great job in the first 7 weeks of our off season, our first quarter, of having very purposeful work every single day. They've made great strides in understanding, not just on the strength and conditioning side, but understanding the pure fundamentals of the positions that they're playing and how they can incrementally get better. Being able to reflect back on a year's worth of work, and as we move forward, just their intentionality today, I thought was really good. Their voice and their leadership was really strong too. They're only going to continue to improve in those things.
Josh, obviously a lot of newcomers across the board, freshmen, transfers.
Yeah.
Who have you seen emerge from a leadership standpoint from those guys this offseason, maybe even today?
I think it'd be really hard and almost unfair for that group to start singling out single individuals as far as leadership. A ton of new guys. I think it's 14 guys, man, I'll tell you, for new guys coming into the building, they are as mature and have handled themselves from day one about as well as any group that I've ever been around. Done a great job of competing. They've done a great job of helping each other out. They have a really good understanding of what we're doing. I'm really proud of what they were able to do today, blending into what we're doing, offense, defense, and special teams. It shows the purpose in which they worked here leading up to today, and it's a group that we feel physically, their talent, who they are, got a chance to grow and develop here during spring ball, but have great off seasons and put themselves in a position to compete during training camp and earn playing time.
We talked last summer about, you talked about what you're going to do, but you actually sort of show it, it's a different thing. Same thing with like when you're talking to recruits or you're talking to families or parents or whatever about the progress, and you see the progress in the stadium, you see the construction out here.
Yeah.
How exciting is that to see the strides you guys are making as a program?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Knoxville being a destination place for players and coaches, and having all the tools, resources that you need to become your best and to go chase championships on the field and become your best off of it and have a really powerful impact. You can see that, as recruits come in, the construction that's going on, $100+ million project here inside of Neyland Stadium. What we got going on with the Anderson Training Center here, $30+ million expansion. They can see all of that happening right before their eyes, and they know that there's more projects on top of that coming, and it's an exciting time to be here. We got great energy and momentum inside of the building. That's one of the best things about being able to bring them on campus, different from a year ago. They're actually able to see and feel the energy and the connection that we have, players and coaches together, and it's been a huge part of the selling point of who we are and what we're doing and where we're going as a program.
Adam and Trey.
Josh, it's become commonplace for freshmen, especially quarterbacks, to be early enrollees and be here in the spring. For Taven, what benefit is there for a freshman quarterback to get this kind of head start, to get the 15
not just for quarterbacks, for all of them. In some ways, they almost resemble, by the time you get to training or through training camp, to training camp, by the time you get there, they almost resemble the class before them more than they do the guys that just get here in June. And I say that meaning that they've had a full off season, they've gotten installs, they've had 15 days of real coaching on the grass with live things going on the other side of the football, understand how they've had to grow. They get a chance to redigest that truly all summer long and really propel themselves both physically, mentally, and technically inside of becoming the best player that they can. It's 8 months of work almost that leads them to training camp, and it really propels their understanding and growth as a football player.
Trey to the left.
Josh, what have you seen out of the running back group in the winter workouts? And first they got here, I didn't have to gather much from that, but Jabari Smart's role, Jalen Wright, got Williams as well. How do you think that group's progressing?
Yeah, I think that group has dramatically changed their bodies. The size of what they look like, lean muscle mass. They've done a really nice job as an entire group this offseason, from Jabari to Jalen to Laneith. Adding Justin inside of that room's been really positive, and he's a fierce competitor. I love the way he approached the offseason. He is a fierce competitor out there on the grass. You could see that today in a short amount of time. That group's only going to continue to get better. We need them to continue to get better. That's in understanding our run schemes, doing a better job of delivering our blockers, being more explosive and being able to get pad under pad in some of the short yardage situations, but also become better pass blockers too. And I think that's an area that position group can take a huge stride in this spring ball.
Time for a couple more, Eric, and then we'll go to the back.
Right. You lost 3 key contributors up front on the defensive line. You return a lot. What's the emphasis on that group here in spring, and how important is it to develop that depth as well as linebacker? Because last year you had some few options.
Yeah, up front, the great thing about playing a bunch of guys is that you lose a few guys that were really good players and strong contributors to us defensively a year ago. You got a bunch of guys that have come back and have played a lot of football too. I think for them, who we were defensively this time a year ago, they were trying to learn how to play inside of our scheme. Now they're trying to refine their skills inside of our scheme. It's just a difference of a year, and we got to continue to find a way to affect the quarterback more. We got to be able to do that with a 4-man rush too, and so our ability to rush the passer and that development is something that'll be critical this spring.
Back here watching Kelsey Pope work out there, seems like a high energy, he gets his hands on everything, but what traits do you like about him?
Yeah, smart, competitive, consistent, great communicator, great leader inside of the room, mentor to those young guys. He has all the tools to be a dynamic and an elite coach, and hired him because there was no doubt that he was the right guy for the job, believe in who he is and how he'll help those guys grow. And, he's done a great job with those guys in the year that he's been here, and we have great trust and confidence in him. He's going to be a great recruiter because he's relationship driven. He's a great communicator, and he's going to work at it. And those are the traits that you need. So we're excited and fortunate to have him part of our staff.
Coach has time for one more. We'll go to Vince.
No spring game. Do you do anything to compensate for that? Because obviously that's an opportunity to play for the fans.
Yeah, for sure. You miss. Everybody in our building is going to miss the opportunity to go inside of Neyland and play in front of a bunch of people. I think it's great for your young players to get that experience before you hit the fall and everything's live for the first time. At the same time, there's a lot of excitement about what's going on inside of our stadium, and for us, we'll try to recreate and get a bunch of people around for a couple of scrimmages and we'll have great recruiting events with those dates too. So there's a positive in those things, but we'll certainly miss the spring game.